So in the movie that I have in mind, that I've written about a tenth of, but have much of it, the plot of it in my mind, there is a young guy named Cole Alexander. This is the Western film script I'm talking about now that I've got in my mind. Cole Alexander works for the Pony Express. Google it if you're not aware of what I'm talking about. And he's about, let's say he's 18, just so there's no issues with what comes later in the film. He's 18 and he's riding from Nevada to California as they did. They did segmented runs like truck drivers do today, but on horses, and they went as fast as possible. And the reason that the mail was so important back in the day, back in those days, was because mail shipments in that era in America were similar to oil or data today. The whole economy ran on snail mail, basically, and it was all of paramount importance that the mail get through. So this Cole Alexander kid runs a route for the Pony Express. And the reason this character appeals to me is because I think had I been in that era, depending, I think it's possible that I might have become involved in this Pony Express stuff. It never lasted very long. There's a very good reason for that, but I'll go into that in a bit. I just want to get a shot of what's behind me. Thought I had the camera on. Didn't have the camera on for that whole little spiel I just did. Cole and Chipa become lovers. He is able to indicate to her that he'll be coming through that area of Nevada, the Nevada-California border, every 3 days or so, and they meet for a while and enjoy a wonderful intimacy and love together in that area, which was probably not all that uncommon. So it happens every time you get different cultures together. This is an incredible tree. There are several, but that one is interesting for sure. The love develops and is maintained over time. In this era, this is historical accuracy, the First Nations Native people were getting extremely hostile because they had their entire lands illegally and entirely usurped for almost no compensation. So they're pissed and they're getting violent and they're attacking the mail run. So let's have a look at this and then I'll carry on with the plot line I have going here. I'd love to get a sample from this tree at some point and get it analyzed for age. I would love to know how old this thing is. Back to our plot line. Cole and Chipa are in love. My sense is if they were running for the Pony Express, they may not have had much of a family life back then. I don't think they would have anyway, to voluntarily take on that lifestyle, being away from everyone and everything for so long in these very arduous, dangerous circumstances. No, there wasn't much family pressure there. And Chipa's a strong woman, so she's doing what she wants. That's it, that's all. Camera likes to cut out. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun stuff. So Cole doesn't have much of a family life. He's running for the Pony Express. Chipa is a very strong-willed woman, has been since anyone can remember. These two are not going to break up just because of silly cultural pressures. They're together and they're openly declaring themselves together and their love and all the rest of it, to great difficulty for both of them. At the time, historically accurately, there was a great deal of violence along this Pony Express run where the First Nation natives would come in and kill a lot of people, including the Pony Express riders. And because the mail was so essential, integral to the American economy at the time, like oil or data today. The U.S. No, actually, they weren't the United States yet. They weren't entirely unified yet. I don't think, anyway. They eventually sent in military detachments to quash, annihilate, ethnically cleanse many of the native First Nations in that area, which they did and which they do in this movie. But before they do that, what they do is they get some outlaws in the area who are condemned to hang for their ornery behavior, their extreme violence that they've demonstrated against people in what are deemed to be by the sheriff and I guess the locals as deemed to be unacceptable ways. And they elicit the services of these extremely violent outlaws to go and try and deal with the unruly native First Nations people as part of my plotline. I don't know if that actually happened. I assume it did. And there's this character, true character, John Wesley, I don't recall his last name, who, guy's a complete psychopath, and he's got access to firearms. So how do you think that's going to turn out? He killed a bunch of people back in the Wild West, right? And they hired this guy to go and, I guess, kill as many First Nations in the area as he sees fit. This tree caught my eye. Beautiful thing. Right at the base of the cliff. And then the nice shadow in behind there. I think I'll get a shot. Back to the plot line as we hike through this absolutely incredible area in the Okanagan region of British Columbia, Canada, just outside or away from, just up from the radio spectrometer observatory that Canada has, that recently discovered some kind of radio signals just up that way. It's around the corner. So Cole and Chipa are in love, clandestine and then openly. They are a couple. John Wesley, the night before he was to hang, the sheriff went in and gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, told him, you can go if you agree to do these dastardly deeds out on the plains against these native First Nations people on their land. John Wesley, violent psychopath that he is, immediately agrees. They release him, they hand him a bunch of guns, out he goes. Cole sees what's happening amongst the native First Nation group, and it's like a Lawrence of Arabia thing. He starts fighting on Chipa's family side. He starts fighting against the John Wesley characters that they're sending to annihilate her people, her and her people. And I won't go into exactly what transpires, but this is the initial of what I have so far for this plotline. And I had this didn't just come to me when I came out here to hike this incredible scenery in a Wild West setting. I had what I've described to you so far already, and I've got more. I've got all of it basically. I'm thinking voiceover Chipa, telling it years later, the story years later from her perspective. I think that's the fascinating angle right there. So, guys, you're not going to believe what I'm looking at. Birch like you have never seen. I gotta get a shot of this. I'll show you. Okay, just listen. Listen to the birch. You can hear the wind noise in the mic, which is no fun. But there's also that beautiful summer sound of wind going through a birch tree. And scenery like this. My. This is a nice place to live. Okanagan, British Columbia.